Hello, my name is Carlos Toxtli, and today I'm going to talk about the topic quantifying the invisible labor in crowd work. This work is in collaboration with Suri and Saiph. Let's start with crowd work. Studies show that 1.3 million Americans earn income over a crowdsourcing platform at least once a month, and this number is growing. It is increasingly important to understand the invisible labor that exists on these platforms. Let's talk about invisible labor. It has been defined as the unpaid activities that occur within the context of paid employment. Usually, housework is one of the most commonly cited examples of invisible labor, and it involves both physical and mental labor. In the context of crowd work, it includes activities such as finding work, being on call, visiting the payment section, and among others. Most end users are unaware of the humans helping to power their AI, the work done by crowd workers, and their possible unfair labor conditions are hidden from sight. There are many types of invisible labor that we detected. The fifth one is hypervigilance. This category involves workers spending time in identifying good work and being on call, ready to do these human intelligence tasks, also known as hits, for requesters at any time. Invisible activities include watching over requesters' profile, searching for general or filtered hits, managing their queues, and checking their own qualifications. Another type is lack of guidance. This one, crowd workers are generally left on their own to figure out how to do jobs as fast and accurate as they can. So there are activities related to start hits, but then returning them, sending messages, reading hit information, previewing hits, and reading platform help. Another type is payments. In this type, the workers ensure that their payments. This category of invisible labor includes visiting the worker's dashboard, viewing their earnings, and doing hits that eventually time out. Another type that are basically the general logistics. It's basically login, log out, and simple activities. So in this work, we focus on quantifying the invisible labor in crowd work. In this work, we present computational mechanisms to quantifying for the first time the invisible labor that exists in crowd work. We believe that facilitating tools for cross-platform auditing is important as digital labor platforms have traditionally been black boxes. We believe that understanding how workers actually spend on invisible labor and how this affects their overall hourly wage can help to ensure fairer wages. These are the research questions. How much time do crowd workers actually spend on invisible work? How does invisible labor affect crowd workers' hourly wages? What type of invisible labor is the most time consuming on crowdsourcing platforms? In order to research that, we developed a web plugin. This web plugin allows us to detect when a worker is performing invisible labor in Amazon Mechanical Turk in a specific. Our plugin has two main components. The first one is computing invisible labor. Our plugin tracks the exact time when a worker enters each mTurk domain page and identify the intervals of time in which the worker is active. So we consider a worker to be active on a page when the worker has the page in focus and does any type of user interaction like scrolls or clicks. The other component is computing working time, the time doing paid tasks. A background process pulls workers' task queues on mTurk every 30 seconds. This helps our plugin to better detect when the worker is completing hits because sometimes those resides outside mTurk and also when the worker is doing multiple tasks. They are doing multitasking. This is a field study that we do in order to understand the behavior. So we conducted a field deployment to study in the wild how much invisible labor crowd workers had to do. We recruited 100 crowd workers from Turk, and they used the plugin for 1 week. They performed about 40,000 tasks there. 21 of the workers were master workers. It means that they completed at least 500 tasks and with a high completion rate in the platform. 73 of them were men, 27 were women. The median age was 30 years old, and they were from different countries, so mostly from India and the US. Some of the results we got is a median number of hits a worker did were 30 tasks. Median time invested in completing hits per day were 1 hour and 7 minutes. And median hourly wage without invisible labor was $3.76. This is relatively similar to prior research. In terms of invisible labor, the median time invested in invisible labor per day was 33 minutes, and the median hourly wage with invisible labor drops to $2.83. So we can see this reduction. So we can see the activity of different workers in completing hits and invisible labor. And yeah, we can see the different proportion. It really varies between different workers. So these are the most time-consuming types of invisible labor. So number one was payments. So crowd workers are likely visiting their earnings to validate if they were paid for their labor and made a certain daily income amount. So basically, they track their earnings. Second one was hypervigilance. Prior work shows that there is an extreme concentration of few requesters who post the majority of the tasks. Workers watch over specific requesters that they prefer and vigilantly identify whether they could now access to their hits. Some discussions we have in the paper is we agree that we need cross-platform auditing tools to quantify and understand the labor conditions on digital labor platforms, which are currently black boxes essentially. To drive policy change, it is crucial for policymakers to be able to quantify and visualize what happens inside these platforms. We need to tie the development of these auditing tools closely with interfaces for policymakers to use to create actionable change. Invisible labor is also present in our digital workspace platforms. For instance, Uber. Uber had reports of drivers and passengers organizing to check how much a passenger was actually charged for a ride versus how much they received. Another case is when Uber sends driver messages to motivate them to keep being vigilant of surge pricing. This is very commonly the dynamic rates. A theory that it's very interesting to approach this problem is critical theory. So how might we design interface to limit invisible labor on workers' shoulders? So an important question is whether a new design truly engages with the root causes of societal problem, or if it is primarily dealing with the symptoms of a problem. A way to engage in such critical analysis can be used in fiction. So we believe that there is a value in engaging with workers in co-design session intermixing fiction. There are some cases in which, for instance, the Lunar Braceros, in which they try to engage the Latino community to have some solutions to some problems that they face in their day-to-day. Some key takeaways. Invisible labor represents a median of 33% of all labor of the workers in our study. The time workers spend consulting their payments and being on call, hypervigilance, represent the two main visible labor activities. Critical theory can be used effectively for designing solutions to this problem that tackle the root causes. Thank you so much, and I'm open to questions.